Hi again, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. And for today's video, we will be continuing discussing chapter one, which is the study introduction to the study of consumer behavior. And now in this video, we will going to focus more on um, understanding the difference between customer versus consumer. All right. But of course, before we move forward, let's quickly recap what we've learned about consumer behavior. It's a study of how individuals and groups make decisions about acquiring, using, and disposing of products and services. This understanding is vital for marketers, product developers, as well as those anyone aiming to create meaningful connections with consumer. So yeah, let's go ahead and dig deeper more about the difference between um, customer versus consumer. But before that, don't forget to show your support by hitting the like button and subscribe to my channel. All right, so let's go ahead and discuss customer versus consumer. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at first a customer. All right, so these are individuals or entities that purchase a product or service. Now, they are the ones involved in a transaction which might involve a monetary exchange, barter, or other forms of compensation. On the other hand, consumer, they are the end user who actually use or consume the product or service. In many cases, the customer and consumer can be the same person, but not always. We will going to discuss that later. Example, a mother buys baby food. Here, she is the customer. And the baby who eats the food is the consumer. Now, understanding who the customers are essential for sales tactics and payment solutions and distribution strategies. On the other hand, knowing the consumer is critical for product development, feature selection, and marketing communication. All right, so let's take a look at on the examples right here. I'll be showing you here. You can see the table below. So in this table, we have here the criteria, which are trading, reselling, purchasing, purpose, payment, and persona. Now for customers, the next column here, we have customers and consumer. Now let's take a look at on trading and reselling. So for customer, they may sell or trade a product or service. And for consumer, they usually uses the product service for personal use. Example, a retail store, which is the customer, buys toys in bulk to sell them. Now, the children who will eventually own these toys are the consumer. Okay, that's for trading and reselling. Next criteria is purchasing. Now, for customers, they involve in the transaction, but for consumer, they may not be involved in the transaction. Say, for example, in a company, the IT department might purchase software. They are the customer, but the marketing department might be the one using it, and they are consumer. Now another criteria here is purpose. For purpose, for customers, they may have various purpose, including reselling, gifting, or for personal use. For consumer, they may primarily their primary purpose is consumption or usage. Example, a gym owner buys a set of yoga mats. He or she is actually the consumer, the customer, I'm sorry, the customer for the gym members to use. Now, those member of their gyms or the one who subscribe, then they will become the consumer because they are the one who are the end user of the product that the gym owner bought. All right. Now, on the payment criteria, customer are responsible for the payment or transaction, but for consumer, they are not necessarily responsible for the payment. Say, for example, parents, which are the customers, might pay for a Netflix subscription that their children or the consumer predominantly used. So here, the parents are the customer and their children who use the subscription for Netflix are the consumer. Lastly, for persona. Now, for customers, they're actually varied. There could be businesses, parents, friends, or etc. Now, for consumers, usually the end user could be children, employees, and etc. Say, for example, a pet owner, which is the customer, buys pet food. The pet, which is the consumer, is the one who will consume the food. Right? So that's the difference between the customer and the consumer. Again, for customer, they might be the consumer, okay? But not all the time that the consumer becomes the customer, because if they don't have the buying capacity, then they cannot be the customer. Okay, so say for example, for the example that I mentioned earlier, that the mother bought a food for the baby. Okay, so the baby, since the baby doesn't have a buying capacity, right, or purchasing power, then definitely the baby could not be the customer. But if the mother bought a food, he might be the consumer because he can use that food, or use it for personal use. All right. Now let's continue. So defining consumer behavior. Let's have the definition here. The According here, this term refers to the action, decision, and attitudes that consumer display when searching for, purchasing, using, evaluating, and disposing a product or service. For components part, we have cognitive processes, emotional aspect, and behavioral outcomes. Now, for cognitive processes, these are the mental procedure customer go through to make sense of information, like perception, memory, and problem solving. For emotional aspect, this refers to the feelings or emotions that consumers experience during the buying process. On the other hand, for behavioral outcomes, these are the actions consumer take, such as purchasing, using, and disposing of a product. Let's have the scope here. Consumer behavior is not just about the act of purchasing, it's a multi-dimensional process that begins long before the act of transactions and continues long after. We will going to discuss that in detail. All right. Now, the statement consumer behavior is not just about acting or about the act of purchasing. Okay. It's a dimensional process that begins long before an actual transaction and continues long after, underscores the complexity and ongoing nature of how human interacts with products and services. Now let's go ahead and break it down. Now, for the when we say the multidimensional process, consumer behavior is multifaceted, involving cognitive, emotional, and behavior dimensions. Consumer don't just walk into the store, make a purchase, and end their journey there, right? Instead, they go through several phases. For cognitive aspect, this actually involves, again, thinking, learning, and problem solving. Before the purchase, a consumer might research different brands, read reviews, and compare prices. Furthermore, for emotional aspects, feelings, and these are actually the feelings and sentiments that um, at play here. A consumer might feel aspirational about the luxury item, nostalgic about a classic product, or even anxious about making expensive purchase. And for behavioral aspects, these are the tangible actions taken, such as visiting stores, clicking on an ad, placing an order or item in the online shopping cart, making a purchase, or even returning the product. So after all of those stages, from the cognitive to emotional, then once consumers already um, agreed or decided to buy the product, then definitely they will go ahead and click the button. or visit the store to buy the product itself. Now, on the scope definition right there, it stated that the process or the multi-dimensional process that begins long before. Okay, so this means that consumer first identify a need or a problem. So maybe their current smartphone, for example, is outdated, or perhaps they're looking for a car because they just moved to a new city. So a consumer may think of buying something because there is a need. Okay, this is what we call problem recognition. Now, after that, there comes the quest for information. Now, a customer is not just going to buy the product instantly, but they're going to search for the information. What are the benefits of this product and service that I'm going to buy? They might search online, ask friends for recommendations, or visit physical store. And this is what we called information search. Furthermore, consumer evaluate alternatives based on their criteria, which could impact or include price, features, and brand reputation. Now, for the actual transaction, this is what most people think of when considering consumer behavior, the act of making a purchase. However, as this model shows, it's just one part of a broader journey. Okay? Now, lastly, continuing long after. So this actually the includes the post-purchase evaluation. After the purchase, consumer evaluate their decision. Was it good to buy? Did it meet my expectation? All right. Now, for future behavior, based on these evaluation, the consumer future behavior is shaped. They may choose to be a repeat customer, write a review, or even become a brand advocate. Conversely, dissatisfaction could lead to product returns or negative reviews. Right. So after the purchase, if the customer use it, okay, if the consumer already use it, then definitely there might be two things: bad or good reviews. So for bad reviews, it's either they're going to write bad reviews of the product that they bought because they're dissatisfied, but or returned it to the owner. Okay. But if they are satisfied with the product or services, then repeat purchase might happen. All right. And they become the brand ambassador or the brand advocate of that specific brand that they bought or product. All right. So let's continue. Consumer behavior is ongoing looped rather than an online time transaction. So it encompasses everything from identifying a need, researching and comparing options, to making a purchase and evaluating its worth post purchase. So each of these phases can influence the next, creating continuous cycle of consumer behavior. So as you can see on the figure that I show, so we have here in the column A, the stages of consumer behavior, which is the pre-purchase, purchase, and the post-purchase. For cognitive processes, we have information search, decision making, evaluation, emotional aspect, the next column, and behavioral aspect outcome. So in the case of purchasing a phone or smartphone, during the pre-purchase stage, a consumer typically goes through cognitive processes like information searching. They may feel emotions like curiosity and take behaviors like visiting a store to browse options. When it comes to the purchase stage, the cognitive action might involve finalizing the decisions based on research, features, and specs of the cell phone. The emotional aspect could involve excitement or even nervousness, and the behavior could be the actual purchase transaction. Lastly, in the post-purchase stage, the cognitive processes involves evaluating whether the phone meets expectations. Emotionally, the consumer may feel satisfaction or regret. And behaviorally, what? They may continue to use the phone or even consider reselling it based on their evaluation. So this is actually how consumer behavior, according to the stages of the behavior of the consumer. So this is just the discussion that we're going to discuss for today. The difference between the customer and the consumer, as well as other definitions of consumer behavior and its stages. All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening to my discussion. I really appreciate that. And see you in my next video. So the next video, the next tier is actually I am going to discuss the nature of consumer behavior. So see you on my next video. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.